welcome to Author in Action Radio, aka The Lost Files. I'm Willie LaJuan Holmes II. I'm the Assistant Artistic Director of Author in Action. And today we have with us Tony Jenkins, my best friend, you know, the sonnet Sinatra, the haiku master, the poem, what's the P word? Poem perfectioner that we have. Thank you, Tony. How you doing, man?
Hi, I'm good. It's good to be on this with our third take together in this moment and pretend like
you wasn't supposed to tell nobody that.
Oh no, I just want to acknowledge that truly there are lost files. There are truly lost files.
Yes, it is. That should never see the light of day. But this one, the people will get to listen. You know, the two people who will eventually watch this.
Yeah, and in fact, I went to go watch your interview with Deanna Daniel, Playwright of the World, and it had 2 views. I was the official third, so at least 3 people have now watched.
On Facebook, we have like 100 views. So
okay. Yeah. On YouTube, it was fewer.
It's fine. All right, so Tony. Yeah. All right, so we're just gonna start off with what have you been doing since you're in New York now, and you were in North Carolina, and then you graduated, moved on to bigger things. So what have you been up to?
Since I moved to
since you moved to New York, just give us a life update here.
Well, over the past, well, I guess I've lived in New York for 3 years now, which is really wild. You know, I'm
what part of New York?
I live in Brooklyn now. I lived in Harlem for 2 years. I live in Brooklyn, and I love Brooklyn. I love my house, and I feel like that meme. You know, I love my house. I love my mom. But you know, there are a lot of things that I love about being here. But one of them was the career I was building, but we're sort of on pause there because I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. You know, what I've been doing is I've been doing a lot of plays. I've been writing a lot of plays. I will occasionally, when specially requested, throw down a poem. I do write a lot of poetry on my own, but I actually was just starting to get back into doing gigs. And then the pandemic started, and I went, well, I guess we'll pick that up later too. But you know, I've been building the beginnings of my artistic career, which has a lot of different vectors. I've become more and more of a director in the city too, because I've had some really great collaborators. So I've been, you know, I've been losing love. I've been out here with a great therapist for some time. And I'm trying to liberate my mind. Say it again.
Black mental health matters.
Listen, it is a true, I'm trying to liberate my mind too. I'm trying to, you know, we're out here looking for liberation, and so much of that does start
that's a big part
right
of it,
out here. Because otherwise, the channel from here to here, and I don't know what's in frame because I hid my view, but I'm trying to put my heart to my brain.
Right here. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So, speaking of that, what's it like being an artist in the midst of a pandemic?
Well, that sort of speaks to how I've been spending my time, which has been, you know, back and forth. So, a lot of moments of big creative sweeps, you know, like there's some days I'll wake up and I open my eyes and I go, there's a song in my head, and, you know, I go and record it and I find the chords and, you know, get down the melody and I go, and now a poem, and I'm hopping from poem to song to play to, I've been doing a lot of dancing alone in my home, and, you know, maybe we'll emerge as a choreographer.
That is like a new like arrow in your quiver.
Well, you know, as a director, I'm a very movement-based director. I mean, I would never call myself a dancer because everyone, in terms of like industry, would call me an actor who moves. which is true. You know, I have a lot of movement training, but as a director, I made a lot of movement, but never really thought about myself as a choreographer, and I still don't. But I've been dancing a lot more. So it's been exactly. I mean, because I live alone, and there's not much else to do when you live alone. Like, I'm left to my own devices. So I'm either in big creative swells, or I'm absolutely sitting in a chair, looking out into the rest of my house and going, I have no idea what to do right now. And I'll just
live alone for now until like I decide to like make that move. Like, you know, the guest bedroom is mine.
Well, I'm trying to fix that room up, Willie, and I have plans to paint an accent wall. I'm thinking like a dark green wall. I've already had the couch.
I enjoy it. I enjoy that already. My room sounds lovely.
Painting the floors, Willie. That's a revelation I had.
Oh, that's the thing.
While we
that
were
is
teaching,
the thing. That
I
is
went,
the thing.
I'm gonna paint the floor.
See, author action just like it's like it comes like inspiration just hits us in unexpected ways to other parts of our lives.
But that is how creativity works. You ask me what it's like being an artist during a pandemic, which of course I would ask you the same question. But to round out that answer, it's I'm finding creativity in very unexpected places, and one of those unexpected places is that feeling of the loss of connection with people, which has had its own creative bubblings up, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. For me, what's it like being an artist in a pandemic? It's a lot of you know, waking up and saying, you know what, I'm about to do something. I'm about to create this thing. And then watching like 30 hours of YouTube videos straight. But like no, I've been like, you know, I have a lot of like outlines for things and like wishes. Like, you know, I'm planning to finally do this book that I've been like planning for like ages, and I'm trying to get my best friend to also collab with me on this book of poetry. So can we get an answer for that? Like on while we're here.
On record. On
the record, yes. On the spot.
Better question is, does it have a title?
Yes, the title, yes. I think you'll like the title. The Thing the Stars Forgot.
I do like that.
Yes.
Like that.
Yes.
And I have a song that I'll play for you, not on this call. That's not finished. Which is very much, it feels like that to me. It is about the stars and, you know, where the stars go.
Well, you know, I'm a good one to have a star metaphor in one of my poems. Stars, fireworks, lighter flicks, and fireflies and sunflowers. Those are like my go-to metaphorical things I go to. Yeah,
metaphorical. Same. Our Venn diagram is very full in that overlap.
This is why we should like collab with his butt, because it's just like
the average viewer at home will think we have never worked on anything. We have a book together.
We do have a book together.
You are my most collaborator, I would say.
Yes.
Out of all my
by far we have worked on
Venn diagram is so overlapped.
Like, yes. You like pretty much there's so many pieces that I have that I can't do simply because you're not there to do it.
I'm like, oh, I guess I'll write this piece so I can do it next to Willie, but then as this thing by itself, it doesn't have enough. Yes, there are a lot of those I have too.
Yes, this is why the thing that starts the guide should happen with you.
If we did that for me, well, I don't want to get too far into that. The kind of book, but I don't know if I've had a lot of heart. You know, this last year has been.
Listen, Tony, I live in heartbreak right now. I have a secret Instagram account that I'm just gonna, you know what, bub it. I'm not gonna tell anyone.
Don't. Yeah. That's your business.
But like that's what that is for. It's like me expressing my heartbreak and like that the heartache, the angsty love and like, you know, feeling like, oh, I just got my heart broken for the first time. So that's what the book is about. Mm-hmm. Trust me, 95% of my pieces are going to be about that.
Heard.
So that's where you are now. It will work perfectly.
It's complicated where I'm at now. The last year has been heart opening. And that meant a big break, which was a big open. And then me at the edges trying to, you know, and I, for whatever, it's very tender today for some reason. But, you know, what I have been writing is a lot of, you know, yes, loss of love, but more than anything, I think the work of this last year for me in particular, I do have a good therapist. There were all these places in me that I did not realize were so in need of love and attention from me. And, you know, not to get into the minutia of I am not trying to therapize this conversation, but, you know, I'm on this journey where I've suddenly gotten to a point in my life where I'm sitting where I'm sitting and I'm looking out and this is what I keep saying to my therapist. I'm like, I genuinely am having trouble having a vision of what my life looks like and who I'm going to be, because I keep coming against this thing of, oh, this is how I've always done things. This has always caused me suffering. And I've never lived my life a different way. And I have no idea what it would mean to do it a different way. But now I know there is a different way. Now I know that I can choose that instead. So I'm making my life in a big way right now, which that big heartbreak set off a chain of events that's led me to this place where I don't know what is going on. And I almost cussed, but I learned my lesson from Daniel in episode 1. But I'm and I have no idea who I'm going to be in a year's time, because I've changed so much in the past few months.
But isn't that like the thing? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that, like it always starts with that thing, and it's like it emanates. 2020 ensemble out to like other aspects of your life, and like you can either like choose to ride the wave and like, you know, make it something, or like get drowned by it. And like, Lord knows, I've had many of those moments. Honestly, this head is like a result of that. Like I love it. Like it works.
Yeah.
But like,
and all that.
Like, yeah. So it's like, it's one of those things. So like, I definitely feel that. So like, okay, so as an artist, you know, you're a multifaceted artist.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you do wonderful work in like all aspects of your artistry.
Thank you.
Do you have like a favorite? Like, what's the thing that you come home to when it comes to artistry?
You know, it's funny. If you were to ask me on the street what it is that I do, I would say that I'm an actor and I'm a writer, but I do a lot of other things too. But when I think about where I come home to, it is a poem. You know, it's the thing. It's been the through line of my artistry for like 10 years, which is really crazy. I can't believe I've been alive long enough to say something like that. But I can trace back what has been consistent, and of course, I act as much as I write. Well, not these days. But I would say that it's that. And there's one piece that I made, a play that I did while I was still in college, but I took it to New York, and I never thought it would have the life that it had. But then there were multiple productions of it, and it's the thing that I think is the most complete vision I've ever made of something that outside of just a standalone piece. So anything beyond 3-4 minutes of a poem, it's the most fully realized thing I've ever done. But it was a play full of poetry, so same deal, I guess.
So it was sort of like meshing these two aspects of you into like this thing.
I love a thing that asks a lot of me, which teaching and authoring action does that. It asks a lot.
That's a good question. That's a good quote. I like that.
Yeah, but that project that I'm talking about, I didn't mean to become the producer, uh, director, head of the ensemble, sole writer, music director, part-time choreographer of it. Didn't mean to do that, but that's what happened. And that's why I think it was such a holistic experience, because it was the whole of me that was being asked to show up and just generate content, which...
So what was the name of this?
This is Black Magic, which you helped me shoot a promo for.
I did. And I enjoyed it. I was very upset that you didn't let me audition for it.
Well, it's because you weren't in New York. Hold up. That was Lynn Rhodes calling me. Took me out of the Zoom call.
Yeah. So. Yes, I was a part of that. I enjoyed it, but she didn't ask me to be a part of it. She didn't ask me to audition. I was very hurt.
Wow.
I'm not gonna lie.
But I was just saying that it was only because you weren't already in New York. There were no...
Okay. I didn't have nothing to do that time. I was in school or whatever, but I dropped out.
Heard. I apologize. You were more than qualified.
Oh, thank you. As long as that's all I wanted to hear.
Yeah, well, you were technically way more qualified than a lot of people we hired, which I'm not dogging them. I'm just saying we showed up and I was like, oh, right. This is a very particular thing. And it was like we had to, I had to teach what I thought my work needed, which was the first time I'd ever done that. I was like, I'd never handed my pieces over to anyone else. And that meant that I was sort of ruthless about it. Because I was like, I'm not about to have you come in here and make my words look silly. Even though some of them were, but that's nobody's business but mine.
So, all right. So let's start with your sort of origin story. You're getting bit by a radioactive spider, if you will. Your, tragic backstory. What's the origin of you coming to author action? Like how did we get here, basically?
Does it have to be tragic?
No, it could be wonderful. I mean, I'm just thinking about superheroes. There's really no happy origin story. There's no happy.
I was joking because it is tragic. No.
I'm all ears.
A great soulmate of this lifetime for me, Deanna Daniel. We were inseparable for a long time, and she had a friend who shall not be named. What was his name? Who knows?
I don't remember.
And she had a friend in the program, and she said, "Oh, this sounds like it's perfect for us." And at the time, I was writing some, but it wasn't my main gig. I never thought. It was always in the back of my mind, like, oh, I might be a writer, but I never really identified myself in a serious way. But then we showed up, and something about it really, I love an intensive that I went to. I ended up going to an arts conservatory for college. So I do love some on the ground, meat and potatoes kind of real kind of learning. And that's what it was for me. But, in terms of where that came from, I always knew I was an artist my whole life. I was a painter for a long time, which, I've just recently picked back up. But I didn't know I was like, oh, maybe I'll be an actor. It was just all sort of in a wash of, but I am an artist. I feel called to make art. And then by the time I was a teenager, after a few years of absolute inner turmoil, dark days, I had full-blown OCD at one point, which undiagnosed, but fully there. I remember having tics, and I still remember what a compulsion feels like in my body. I don't have them anymore, but I still feel the residual anxiety of that lingers. And I was getting these, and maybe we're probably going too far in. Who
people want to know, all right?
I used to get anxiety migraines, like debilitating, laid me out. I missed days of school kind of migraines. And I went and got a CAT scan once, and they were like, there's nothing wrong with your brain. And that's when something flipped off, a switch flipped. And I went, oh, this is something much deeper than that. It's not a physical issue. This is an emotional issue. And then I got older and I looked back and I went, how did anyone not spot that sooner? Because I look back and it seems so obvious to me. But anyway, I was in a lot of turmoil. I was very repressed. I grew up, I had a complicated relationship with identity and my place in the world, and just felt generally very confused. And then I started having to identify something in myself, in the world, or whatever, through words during my first summer, and it changed my life in a huge way. And I think it put me on a course that I think it would have taken me, because I don't doubt that this is the way that, again, this is my life. There is no other version of my life. Like, this is it. But I trust that I would probably be in a place like I am now, regardless. I just think it might have taken an extra 10 years had I not joined Authoring Action and set that chain of events in motion, which has led to me, sitting across the Zoom from you, having had a lot of wild artistic experiences that shaped who I am, I think.
So speaking of that, like, what's some of your like fondest moments being an author and action writer?
Well, I know I've talked to you about this before, but I'll never forget the time we were at Harvard Graduate School, and I didn't love the piece that I had written, or one of the pieces I'd written. And for whatever reason, all of the pieces that everyone had written for that engagement were so long. I remember rehearsing in the van, all of us trying to do this rehearsal in the car over these seats. And there were pieces that were like, you remember Taylor's piece? It was like, I dare say that was like 7 or 8 pages. And it went on for about 10 minutes. And she was paired with What's-Her-Face. And the two of them, she also went on and on and on. And so it's like everyone was at risk of forgetting their pieces. But at the end of the day, I was kind of like, I feel like I got this, even though my piece was kind of long too. I don't remember a lick of what I said. I do not remember what I did. But I remember the moment when I'm like, we're standing beside each other. And then it comes, you finish what you're saying. And I go, okay, it's me. And then I go, and then I have no what's next. And it's the first time it ever blanked like that ever in my whole life. And it's like a great I get a lot of fear around, like, oh God, I'm going to forget my lines. But then I remember, I didn't try to make anything up. I didn't take the time to remember. In the millisecond between deciding that I would not remember in time, I just looked at you like, and then you picked it up. And that, my friend, is why I trust you with my life, because you saved my life several times.
I think that's really when our friendship like bloomed in that moment.
We've traveled all over the country together.
Yeah.
I mean, not all over, mostly the East
Coast. But the East Coast, the East Coast, like, we hit that. Like,
we hit the full East Coast.
Like, Like,
I also remember, this is a little dicier, but I was having one of these conversations with someone where we were talking about what's happening right now politically. And I realized that I compartmentalized some experiences in my life in a way where I didn't even think about them for what they were. And so now that I'm having all of these revelations, as a person who's been engaged with this kind of conversation for a while now, because of the nature of what we do, and being from Authoring Action, that's when I started as an arts activist, I think. And I think it's made activists out of a lot of people. But I thought about that time when, not that time, but that more than once, we had the cops called on us sitting in your car after a day working on Authoring Action outside of my house, literally like 15 feet away from my front door. And didn't that happen more than once?
Yes, that happened like 3 times.
And now we're out here teaching the youth of America doing God's work,
Holding
hard
minds.
days, intense days,
long days,
long days. We pick up cookout. We're just trying to eat dinner and like
paying with the nickels in our pockets.
Paying with the nickels in our pockets, nickels and dimes is all we got. Because God bless Authoring Action. They need more funding because we all need to be
donates now. Donate button here.
I'd come and work for them for any amount.
Yes.
Truthfully, because I really believe in what it is that we do together. But we're trying to decompress from the kind of intense teaching days that we do have during our summer intensives. And then the cops called on us outside of my own home. And that is one of several times when I've been in the car with you and we've gotten pulled over, cops come and, we're sitting in a parking lot, and so I had put them away somewhere, and all of these things are resurfacing for me, which does feel like a part of Authoring Action, because they would normally happen during the summers when we are like in the middle of this really exhausting and rewarding process.
Yeah.
Which, we've not written that piece yet, I don't think.
We have not. We should. Listen, we have an Eminent ensemble. One of the topics is Black Lives Matter. So maybe that's the piece. Because you did say we're going to write 3 pieces together this summer.
That's true.
That was the thing that happened. So maybe that's the thing. So you brought up being a teacher and things like that. So what has been your experience with being a teacher now in Authoring Action? What's the difference? Is there a difference for you from like being in the program and then transitioning into being a lead and staff teacher?
It's a huge difference for me. But I think, so I did my first summer and then I became a peer mentor my second summer because I was so active during the school year. And then by the end of that summer, I had just had a working relationship with everyone so much that I felt like I could be more useful, and like I felt like I had all these skills that I didn't know what to do with. And then by the time my third summer rolled around, I was fully on the staff. But I'll say even between that first summer and that second summer, what it gave me, more than power or control or whatever, it made me feel, it made me take responsibility over my writing in a way that, and in the way that I engaged my writing, in a way that I hadn't before. Because suddenly I was like, well, what does it really mean? And what is this process really like? And what have I learned over this time? And so having to, I'm a big fan of the idea that we're all just students in a classroom, and I show up as the teacher in that I create the structure that we work inside of, unless I'm working for like a bigger institution or something, or I have a lesson plan assigned to me, which so there's like there are dynamics that are different, but at the end of the day, my goal is always to get into a position where me and whoever I'm teaching, whether that be one-on-one or a room of 30, 40, or whatever in between, we're all on the same quest towards ourselves, right? Towards our authentic, honest selves. And I'm learning how to do that from watching people go into that vulnerable space. And hopefully they're learning from me by me also doing that, but in a way that is about them. I sometimes find that teaching at its best is almost a selfish act. Because when at your most generous as a teacher, I find that I just get so much that it almost feels unfair. That's in great circumstances. There's lots of really tough stuff, like, also, the 1,000,001 dramatic moments that come with like young people and teens getting together and really going there in their work, really going there in discussions, really going there. And so of course things are hot, then things are cold, then things are electric, then things are just combusting because this thing set off this thing, which then, turned to a firecracker over there. So, it is a lot. It is a lot, but for me, it's about responsibility. I feel very responsible as a teacher, not like I feel responsible, like I am responsible. I feel a responsibility to everyone.
What has been your most rewarding moment as a teacher and author, actually?
It's not the time when it's not the time when I made Kyra throw up. Not that one. So just to tell
that one, okay.
Not that one. We're doing our daily. I'm leading exercises. Kyra, an alumnus who is so lovely and a good friend.
We'll probably be on one of these eventually.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get her to do it. I'm gonna get her to do it.
Please do, and know that. Tell her I love her, and again that I'm sorry because I've apologized a lot for this. I just didn't. I thought she was just trying to get out of doing what we were doing, and I was like, no, you stay in here. And then she got sick, and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I learned a lot that day, though. What I'm most rewarding, I don't know, but I always love. I'm having trouble pulling a specific on this one, but for me, I feel like this is why I'm here. When I'm doing a one-on-one with someone and they finally break through, and I've been talking a lot this summer about how the expectation is not some sort of emotionalism, right? Coming from, I work with a lot of actors, of course, and I know so many actors. And I love actors, and I'm an actor. But there is a sort of culture that says to fully be vulnerable and honest. That means some sort of hyper emotionalism, and that is not my gig. A lot of times it does mean that when you're working with teens, because a lot of times it's the first expression of that ever in someone's life where they feel it, like, getting to put your feelings and match them with your words and your thoughts and your opinions and your power. It's very intense. So a lot of intense emotional moments, but more than that, it's that moment when the light goes off and whatever notes someone else has given them or what you're doing in that moment, whatever the magical alchemy of that thing, when something drops in and then someone finally finds their physical voice and can meet their writing where it is with that kind of that's my favorite thing. But I have no specific for you in this moment. I'm sure I could find one, but I feel like that's not the point of this. I could sit here and think about it, but that feels woo, let me just
so what made you come back and teach with us this year? This summer?
I got time.
Yeah, the pandemic has shut everything down. I completely understand. Gotta pay the rent somehow.
Yeah, I missed everybody. That's true, because we talk about the students all the time, and they are the focus. But what brings me back over and over again is the staff. Because these are like friends of many, many years now. Like there's no one on staff. Well, there is someone on staff that I'm just now getting to know, but even that person, I already feel, Yeah. So because it's such a, I'll say the word intense for the fifth time, because it is an intense experience. It's very bonding for the ensemble and for the staff, because you have to know where you can corral back to, like, who can you huddle with when things get real, so that you can then deal with your own thing and then get back to the bigger important thing. So getting to hang with you, going and getting to get some creative inspiration from these new minds that I've not yet encountered, getting to be taught in a way by Nathan again is really fun. And I do miss how much I was missing how much it asks of you, even though I get to the other day and I'm like, oh God. There's something about feeling useful that I love here.
Exactly, because it's definitely, it's we say like it's a long day, but it's long because it's so emotionally and like mentally challenging. We have like real discussions and like we have like very, very thought out and like well articulated like young authors that like it pushes us to like meet them where they are. Like we can't slip up at all, because they're gonna ask the hard hitting questions and they're gonna like push that boundary of like I'm 14 and I'm not supposed to know this. They're not gonna sit there and like relax on that. I'm 14. They're gonna like ask the questions that you're like, why do you even know about this? You're like, you're in middle school, like, or you're in high school. Like, why do you even like know or care about that? They're gonna ask that question, and so it's just like keeping up with them. It's just like it's a lot, But speaking of staff, like, what's your relationship with the illustrious Lynn Rhodes and Nathan Ross Freeman?
What's my relationship with them?
Yeah, like what has that what has that been like over the years with them?
I mean, I'd never done anything like that dynamic before. And I've done it since, but going from like pure intimidation by being in a new space, and I was, I'm an introverted person, but in going into that environment, it was really hard for me. And I was so scared, and I still get scared when it comes to that sort of work. I find it, now I know it's scary because it is very exposed. But I felt super extra exposed when I first met them, and I was super intimidated by everyone. But then because I worked with them so much through the school year, even in between my first summer and my second summer, I got, then I got sort of used to them. And then very quickly, Nathan became like a real mentor in my life because, especially because you, Deanna, and I, we weren't the only ones, but there's something about finding out that that you have a tribe of multi hyphenate artists around you who want to make films and be actors and write the plays and also write the things and lead the whatever. And finding tribe is what I did with Nathan and Lynn, and going from like I'm 15 and like so lost to then like having dinner parties at Lynn's and drinking a lot of wine with Nathan as we got older, and just sort of like talking big talk. Yeah. and telling our life stories as they were felt at the time, and just like really feeling like true bond. So it's funny, I don't think much about them in terms of like what they mean to me, because they're so secondhand to me because they're family. Like I just think about them like I think about my aunts and uncles and my cousins and my parents and you and Deanna. Like I don't question those relationships very much, which maybe there is something in that, but because they're so a part of my life, and I know I can always go back to them.
When you win your EGOT, will you thank them in your speeches?
Will I?
Yes. When you win your EGOT, will you thank them in your speeches?
Oh, I will. I will. There's like a short list of people that have to be named, because right now I don't have.
What is that list?
Well, it'll include whoever my agent or manager is at the time.
Okay, I respect that. Uh-huh.
And Lynn and Nathan. So just the great teachers of my life. Maybe I'll get like some love affair. I don't know what I'll be doing at the time. And my great friends.
Okay, I was about to say, like, I need to be top 6.
Yeah, short list. It is still a short list though. So know that you're there, and know that it's exclusive, so you could feel good about that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, you're back at 2020 Eminent Ensemble. Like, what can people expect from these authors this year?
I think it's been 2021 since we started this conversation. This feels like an extended edition. What can they expect from Eminent Ensemble?
Yes.
You could expect a lot of personality, because that's one thing that is great.
Yes.
A lot of different personalities too.
Individualistic. Yes.
Yeah, and once they really step into that in their work, which everyone has really started to, and there are a few strong pieces in the mix, and we're all going to elevate together. I'm really excited to see what that looks like when all those different colors are beside each other. And I'm talking life experience. I'm talking personality type. I'm talking actual style variety. Like people are really individual this summer, like very and in that way iconic. There's some iconic voices this summer.
Very, very signature icons that will last the test of time in Eminent.
Yeah.
Really, and I'm looking forward to saying this year's difference is we're doing the films because of this whole pandemic thing. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what they come up with in the next week. We have a big job trying to put this all together and make it work and fulfill their writing. So I'm looking forward to that challenge. Well, one of the things that we're talking about with Eminent is Black Lives Matter,
mm-hmm.
right? And you spoke earlier about being an art activist. With all the things that have happened in the last couple of months, or really years, but really the explosion of kind of activism that has cropped up in these times. What has your experience been with that? With being an artist and being an activist?
Well, in terms of Black Lives Matter, every time I would have a conversation with a black loved one, and I'm mostly talking great old friends. What I kept hearing was, especially early on, before the protests even started, I think, or right around when they started, was people saying, I'm just so numb. I just don't really feel. I watched the video, whichever one they were talking about, and I just don't feel anything. And I thought that was that was something I identified with, because I usually have an experience of super intense pain, and then a sort of numbness would come. Because, and I don't know how you feel about this, but it felt like a necessary numbness. Like, how do you process something that feels like it's happening to you or happening to someone that you love? Because it could have been, so when it first started out, it was really just felt like I was with people trying to sort, with them virtually, of course, which is hard, trying to sort through the feelings, and then the action started. And, I do think I have thought about myself as an activist for a long time, but it was a different kind of activism, which wasn't which wasn't as much in the streets as much as it was. I mean, yes, that, but we've done a lot of gigs too, you and I together at rallies and those sorts of politically charged events and demonstrations in response to things, and but we were always up with a microphone, I had very rarely been out in the crowd, and that was a big shift for me, and it was intimidating, funny enough. But once I sort of entered in to how I might show up best for the people that matter to me, and for my people, and for and like for the greater cause, which is just us seeing and appreciating each other's actual humanity. It started to become less emotionally taxing and more empowering. But it was really hard for a long time, and of course, it's not been that long since this particular thing has happened, right? Where everything is it feels like everything is changing. But the pandemic is a huge part of that.
Definitely, and I just want to take the time right now to say, justice for George Floyd, justice for Breonna Taylor, justice for all the Black lives that have been lost to senseless, violence, police brutality, all of it. It's definitely kind of that numb feeling that you brought up, that definitely, it permeates, it permeates through all of this, because even when you feel that moment of you're out of it for a second, you're doing something else, you at the grocery store or something, and then it hits you again, and you brought up the stories about us just after a hard day chilling at your house, and then the police get called, and you remember these things because these things happen, unfortunately, all too frequently with individuals who look like us, and you kind of get to a feeling of you're gonna have to live with that, where it's it's not that I know that I'm gonna have an interaction with the cop again in my life. It's not if, it's at this point it's when.
And you more than me, which is its own dynamic.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, coupled into art, being an artist with all of that, you kind of battle the should I write about it? And should I write about it, even though this is that pain, kind of thing where it's and that's, maybe that's what being a poet and artist is kind of always picking at that scab a little bit, never truly letting it heal, even though it's kind of that's what art is. It's supposed to be healing, but you're writing this thing, and you do this thing, and you look at this thing, and it's it's still picking, it's still that, it still is fresh, and I always I kind of I go back to a poem that I wrote in Author Action that I found really, really interesting, is that the poem we actually do together, the love poem, and I have a line that I say, I've never really been good at the L word. It implies future, and tomorrow and I haven't even been in the same room together. I mean, I've had suicide notes that have rejected me, and every time I engaged that poem, people would laugh, and it always bothered me. It always bothered me. I never said anything about it, but it always bothered me. And there's a part of me that understands why people laughed at that. But then there's that part of me that was yo, that was a real scream for help, And you know, there's like a saying, you know, nobody cares how the sausage is made.
Mm.
You know, and you know, I think that's like my dilemma as an artist is, you know, that tightrope of being the change and like doing the thing that I love and like, you know, wanting to like put this pain into something while also taking care of myself.
Mm.
You know, so that's been like the interesting dynamic that I've had with all of this, you know, whether it's, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement or just this pandemic and just like living life as like a 20-something-year-old, like in this time, like,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I mean, because it is that cry, and it doesn't matter if it's the cop who's rolled up to the window when you're doing absolutely nothing wrong, which the two of us have experienced together so many times,
Yes.
realizing, or the person after the show who sees you as some sort of thing as opposed to a person with a humanity beyond your work, where the same sort of thing is at the heart of it, where I always find myself wanting to say something like, and it's never in the moment this comes to me, but the thing inside is like, but you don't really see the whole of me. But you don't really see, but don't you see who I am? And I think for a long time I thought about that sort of, you know, getting up on stage and doing a poem, because it is a full body experience, and can be very powerful for everyone involved, and hopefully for the audience. But I used to think about it as this, I don't know, I think I was seeking still some kind of validation. And that's a big thing that shifted for me, because the healing can't happen if that's what's underneath it. If you're trying to impress somebody, if you're trying to make somebody love you, even if they're not in the room, if
that's
you're trying
right there,
yeah, X, Y, Z, the healing will never happen. And I wonder if we are starting to pick scabs less and pour alcohol on more, so we're disinfecting the wound, it still hurts I think it hurts worse than picking at the scab. But in the end, it's disinfecting the wounds that it can heal, right? And that maybe it won't leave such a bad scar.
That's interesting. I like that. I like your metaphor.
I like your metaphors. I'm just trying to tell office chairs about recess. That's just all I'm trying to do. What a classic.
Yeah. I wrote that such a long time ago.
I know.
Like such a long time ago.
Fun, though.
You know, that jumped out of my body somehow. I don't know where that came from. Like
that's the best stuff, though. Where does it come from? Creativity. Where's that at? You tell me.
I don't know. You know. So you just brought up like an old throwback. What has been your favorite thing that you have read?
Oh, I don't have an answer to that question.
I have one. My favorite thing that you have written. There's like a whole plethora of things, but my top three, in no particular order. You have Darling.
Okay.
Darling is fantastic.
Thank you.
Your dear grand person.
Really?
Dear
you
grand
put that
person.
Top three?
Yes, wow. Dear grand person.
You get your opinion.
Is fantastic.
Thank you.
And pretty much any love poem that you do is definitely top three for me. Like all your love poems are top three. Like they're A, B, C, D, E, F, G, because you have a lot. So they're like, yeah. So three A, B, C, D for me.
Okay.
You're fantastic with the love poems. Like your imagery for like love and like loss and like that feeling of like, you know, what it means to like, you know, be with somebody and like also like be your own person and trying to figure out how to like be us while also being me and being like you in that moment. Like you explain that or you express that really, really well. And like I'm jealous so much of that. Like you're the pinnacle for me for like love poems. Like that's what I like rate myself on. It's like, is this love poem as good as Tony's? If not, that's what I get.
While I call malarkey, I appreciate that. And you know, I used to think it was because I had some sort of, honestly, some kind of deficiency. Like I used to think that I was writing into some sort of open space where I didn't know what I was talking about, but I had a very full imagination of it. And I've just realized more and more, it's because I have a big capacity to love. I got a lot of love to give. I got a lot of love to live.
That right there gets you growing.
Yeah, and it's not that the work I've done hasn't changed. I mean, it has changed, of course, because I have more and more experience writing. But that realization, I think, saved me in a big way, because I used to think it was like love was this thing I aspired to, but I got a lot of love to give, you know. And of course, fully releasing into things like that is a recipe to, you know, there's a lot to lose, and then when it's lost, you know. I mean, of course, you know, again, my therapist, you know, what was lost, what wasn't lost, these are questions. But I'll say love poems are my favorite poems to do, because you can run the full gamut. Doesn't matter if it's a breakup poem, a new love poem, and man, we're in the middle of it, and I love you so much kind of poem. Love poems are political. Love poems are revolutionary. Love poems speak to the best of us and the worst of us. That's why I love a love poem. And I would say that my favorite poem to do that I've ever written is Darlin', because it was about a moment of brief love, where it was fully there and then it was over so quickly. But it was like I captured it in a bottle as soon as it happened. And every time I get to go back to it, it's not that I remember who it was about, in fact. It's that I remember the feeling of it. And for me, that's what it is to get up on stage and do poems that are not, because usually my favorite poem is the last thing I've written. But to get up and do these older ones, it's like, I mean, talk about being a channel. It's like getting possessed with the feelings of, oh my God, that moment, that blip of that revelation of love in that moment. But sometimes it is going into Black Death, to get possessed with that, or to go into, you know, whatever myriad thing, you know, it's like, it's a lot to experience. But my favorite thing to experience, I think, is love. So I go there with that piece in particular, I think.
Beautiful. Honestly, I don't even know how I can get this conversation can get any better than that right there. So I'm gonna like just ask you like one final thing. Like, what's on the horizon for you? What's next? You have any plans for any artistic things? Any like things you're working on besides the book that we're collabing on?
Thank you for that question.
Yes.
It's funny. It's hard to imagine, because the world is so uncertain right now. But you know, I have several plays which are in process, like Diana. So please go back and watch, if you haven't. Two people who are watching this, go watch Diana's interview.
Yes, thank you.
I also have a canon of things which are mostly unfinished, and I've had one great experience with what I think about is my one finished play. I have lots of plays that are ready to be moved into their next life, not the afterlife, but the life where it'll be done.
I got you.
But looking at having not a lot of theater in the horizon, you know, I'm thinking about how much I love films, and I want to make more films, and you know, I'm trying to make that TV money. So I'd love to be on a great TV show as an actor. But in terms of what I actually am working on these days, I've been making a lot of music. And I downloaded some music software, which is more sophisticated than I've ever had access to. And I think producing music is a huge part of where I'm headed artistically. And not that I'm like trying to become a producer, but I've always wanted to I've never had the actual toolkit to make music the way I want to make it, because I I play 2 instruments, that's true, but even the ukulele and the dulcimer, I don't quite have the skill set yet to be experimental the way I want to be, the way that I can with a sound program where I can build all kinds of sounds and I have access to any instrument, and it's just here at my keyboard. I'm very excited about what that means for me in terms of exploring music.
You say you don't want to be a producer, but I'm not trying to be a singer, but we can make this mixtape happen. This EP.
Well, I'm bringing. I the next time I see you, I will have a few basic skills under my belt in the mixing music and using these MIDI instruments. So that's what I'm going to be doing for the next few months, while I'm also writing and clearing the space to do new creative things. While I'm not able to like go out and engage pieces, perform as an actor, while I'm not able to be on set and do these things, this is one creative outlet that I'm finding so good. And of course, I wish I could bring my instruments everywhere with me, but I've had a very musical summer so far.
That's good to hear. So people, be on the lookout for our book that we're collabing on, and also our EP.
Which is titled
the EP or the book?
The EP.
The EP will be called I'm thinking Fireflies and Other Drugs, maybe. When the Sun Forgets. I enjoy that title.
What was the title of the book?
The Thing the Stars Forgot.
Well, that would be a good side by side.
Yeah.
Sun is also a star.
Oh yeah, or When the Sun Remembers My Name. I don't know.
Something like that. That sounds good to me. And what
we'll make it.
Yeah. What we have to do is get Caitlin in, and we'll record that one song that we started that one time where I rapped for the one and only time.
And it was fantastic. I cannot wait to. You're in for a treat. Tony Jenkins, aka DJ Tony.
I remember some of those lines. And
Haiku Master on the beat.
I cringe. But, there were some parts of it that I did believe in. I could go back and rewrite that, and it could be something.
No, it has to be what it was. Like the exact same mix. Exact same flow. We'll figure it out. Thank you, Tony, so much for doing this, man. I appreciate it. It's been great catching up with you.
It's been great being interviewed, but you're a great interviewer.
Thank you. I'm out here trying to expand my resume.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? WXII, holla at your boy. I don't know. But thank you for coming to Author Action Radio, The Lost Files. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
And we're out.